and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I have no further announcements this evening at this stage. I'll ask for disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. We no delegations. Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Dwyer.
Sorry. Yep, I believe I will. I'm just looking for the item number, but it's the contract that we'll be executing with Dylan. I believe we're doing that tonight. Was that on here, Nadine?
Let's see here.
Yeah, sorry, 8.2, the award of contract for the land needs study.
Okay, so noted. Thank you. Nothing further. So adoption of minutes is with Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen that the minutes of the March 28th, 2022 and April 4th, 2022 council meetings be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Allen, that the minutes of the March 28th, 2022 and April 4th, 2022 council meetings be approved as circulated. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Reports. Who wants to go first? Councillor Allen.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. On April 12th, we had a library board meeting. Amanda, our head librarian, reported that there's a great uptake now in visits, in-person visits to the library. Our ease trough has been installed and it looks beautiful. There's been work will begin soon using our plans for the new staff room. I don't know if any of you are aware, because if you visit the library, you're not always aware of where people go to try to relax and have their lunch or whatever. But up to this point, it's just a little room, a very crowded little room that's not very conducive to relaxing. So we have our plans for the new staff room in the basement level, and it's going to begin soon. We're also going to invest in consistent signage throughout the library so that people will know where to go, and we won't have to do taped on messages on the wall. The Friends of the Library will be having their book sale, so please everyone listen, and that's going to be on June 18th at Victoria Park. On Saturday, the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario had their Easter Express. It was a great event with over 600 people attending. John Mulcairns was dressed as Peter Cottontail and did his last run, as chief conductor. He's going to give that role up, but continue with us. We had a cake and a little celebration at the end just to appreciate his great success and all the work he's done. The petting zoo was really well received, and the animals, most of them were babies, so they were a great success. I want to thank all the volunteers that helped us that day. Katie and David Hoffman gave tours throughout the day on the dining tour and explained to people that we'd be starting a high tea program in our dining car very soon. Jen Brown and Kathy Botham get a special shout out for being there to take pictures, and maybe you've seen some of them already on Facebook. And those are my reports. Thank you.
Super, thank you. Additional reports? Yes, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. For the first time in my lifetime, the municipal, provincial, and federal governments are aligned on the housing crisis. And I'd want to report on last week's community services meeting at Leonard County Housing. And most of, I'm sure council's aware, and the public will be aware that the county approved a $3.8 million forgivable loan to CareBridge. And this is wonderful, exciting news. This will partially fund 28 new units, all affordable units on 44 Chambers Street across from the SCORE and Giant Tiger. The county is aligned with the town of Smiths Falls, the province, and the feds in making this happen. The county went out for tender, an RFP, seeking a partner to build, and CareBridge has extensive experience in this area. They stepped forward with a shovel-ready proposal, and we're just delighted that our colleagues, Mayor Panko and I, our colleagues around the county council table agreed to this forgivable 40-year loan. It's considered a forgivable loan because if in the event that Carebridge decided to get out of the affordable housing market and turn it into for-profit, the county could actually ask for their money back, but that is not expected at all. The 28 units will likely house 50 people or more, and they will come off the county's wait list for affordable housing. It's just terrific news and an example of when the partnership and the will is there, wonderful things can happen. On another note, again related to housing, at the same meeting, the county also received 1.5 million for their homelessness prevention program, and they've received that from our provincial government. And that money would go towards emergency shelters, supportive housing, outreach and support, and other housing assistance. Mayor Panko did ask a good question at county, asking about the use of emergency shelters such as motels. And the good news is the use of emergency shelters has gone way down since the start of and the peak of COVID. So that is good news. And we were delighted. It was all housing at that meeting, and there's just terrific progress. And for those who don't know, the county has an obligation with the province to provide over 770 units, and we're below that target. So this investment in our community and in people's lives will go a long way towards meeting that target. So just wonderful news all around. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful news. Any further reports? I don't see any. A couple of myself. I'll start with April 6th. Community Services Committee for County Council had a special meeting to discuss the report, Municipal Tools to Support Affordable Housing. So the county had embarked on an affordable housing study to develop tools related to the development of more affordable housing in the county. It builds on the 10-year housing and homelessness plan. The objectives of this would be to analyze housing affordability needs and to identify the opportunities and barriers to meeting those needs. Have a broad overview of the key characteristics and trends impacting current and future housing affordable demands in Leonard County, and to create a toolkit of municipal planning tools to address housing needs and demands. Concerns were identified, including the ownership affordability threshold, which it was from the results of the study clearly beyond the reach of the majority of the population, especially with the rising cost of home ownership within Leonard County. Over 60% of based on income, over 60% of Leonard County residents would not be able to afford a home today. As well, some real deep concern about affordability for people who are paying rent for their home. And I think overall in the county is about 47%, and in Smith Falls, I think about 52% of people who are renting their home are paying more than 30% of their gross income on housing, and 30% being that threshold to determine affordability. Of note, key housing gap in 2016, 2/3 of household sizes were considered a small household. And that's a trend which has been rising. Yet 76% of homes in Leonard County are single detached dwellings. So some of that disconnect between maybe where needs are today, where the market is today, and the homes that are available from an inventory standpoint. Gap number 2 that was identified is a insufficient supply of rental units. And I think the pressure we're seeing today, of course, even though it's being, we're seeing like a significant contribution of new rental units coming into our community last year, this year, and in the foreseeable future. We also went through a period, I think, from 1996 to 2016, when there was about 35 new rental units which came into being in Smith Falls. So that is starting to correct itself, but that was identified as a gap in the study. The third gap identified was an inadequate supply of affordable housing to low and middle income households. And of course, we're very conscious of that, and we're doing what we can to try and help remedy that. There were 44 total actions, 24 related to policy and regulation, 10 related to funding, 4 to partnerships, and 6 to awareness and advocacy. And 3 goals were identified. 1, encourage a broad range of housing options to meet current and future needs. 2, increase the supply of market rate and affordable rental housing across all communities in Leonard County. And 3, support economic growth and community well-being through an adequate supply of housing, which is affordable to households with moderate incomes. Well, it's a very extensive report. You get a chance to view it. It's on the Leonard County website. It was a great discussion. Staff took notes, of course, and refining the overall objectives and actions as a result of feedback from the committee. So there'll be details coming out of this. Of course, a lot of actions which will be coming out of this. Though it just again speaks to Councillor McKenna's comments that a strong recognition that there is a dire need for more affordable housing within Leonard County. Second one, I just want to talk about briefly. Last week's Community Services Committee, Councillor McKenna spoke to. I'm just going to speak to the Corporate Services Committee meeting. And the biggest I guess, takeaway that evening was a summary of activities for the Leonard County Paramedic Service for 2021. And what's clear, I guess, is that the calls for service continue to rise across Leonard County, and certainly including Smith Falls. An aging population is contributing, of course, to that. But a lot of positives coming out of the paramedic service. Some highlights were the community paramedicine program. There's a 3-year long-term care pilot project going on until March 2024. 122 new community paramedicine long-term care patients enrolled in 2021. Community paramedicine expansion pilot funding is until March of this year. 134 new patients were enrolled in 2021. A total of 2,090 client interactions were completed by the end of the year, including in-home visits and virtual visits. This would be paramedics who are doing medication compliance, fall risk assessment, mental health assessments, physical assessments, vital signs, blood work, remote patient monitoring, a variety of things. So trying to help keep people out of hospital and being proactive and meeting the needs of our community. 256 new patients were enrolled in 2021, up from 171 in 2020. They also provided 195 influenza vaccines between October and December. They did 489 in-home COVID swabs through 2021 and applied over 1,800 COVID-19 vaccines throughout the year last year. Such an incredible contribution to our community, and especially for people who may have difficulty getting out to get a vaccine otherwise. The paramedic program also has a peer support team. I continue to provide 24/7 support for the staff. During that time, it was accessed 186 times by staff. So the opportunity to speak to peers in a supportive way. These access points range from a follow-up call to ongoing support to ensuring staff receive more definitive care from a mental health professional. Also, from an expanded skill set, a total of 24 paramedics were certified to provide IV therapy in 2021. Certification consists of an in-class portion followed by scenario testing with partners at the Regional Paramedic Program for Eastern Ontario. Upon successful completion of the scenarios, the paramedics then complete a clinical portion where they have the opportunity to start IVs under the guidance of a healthcare professional who's already certified in certain IVs. The service now has close to 50 paramedics who are certified or will soon be certified to initiate IV therapy. And then a growing trend within paramedicine is the advanced care paramedics. And Leonard County Paramedic Services currently has 6 full-time frontline advanced care paramedics working through the county, in addition to the 3 members of the management team certified as ACPs. There are currently 6 paramedics who are enrolled in the ACP program who are in various stages of completion. And in order to become an ACP, the paramedic must be accepted into an accredited ACP program, attend class full-time for 4 months, complete 400+ hours of clinical experience, including OR, ER placements, in addition to ACP preceptorship, and write a provincial exam and be certified. And the paramedics themselves put out the individual cost, which is $20,000 plus. But once the ACP is certified, they can provide a higher level of care to their patients by being able to provide more medications, perform more procedures, in addition to those that primary care paramedics can provide. So, I mean, great news for our community and our broader community at the great work of our Leonard County paramedics under the leadership of Chief Mellamai. And that's it for my reports. We have a number of bylaws and motions tonight. We're going to start with Councillor Allen, please.
Yes, Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McGuire that a bylaw to authorize execution of funding transfer agreement with the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade respecting the Smiths Falls, Leonard County and Leeds and Grenville Small Business Advisory Center be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a funding transfer agreement with the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade respecting the Smiths Falls, Leonard County and Leeds Grenville Small Business Advisory Center be now received a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Allen?
Yes, this transfer agreement with the provincial government is going to be in the amount of $363,332. We used to have 3 different agreements, but in 2019, a new agreement combined all into one for a 3-year term, which reduced reporting requirements and helped. This new 2+ year contract has an option for a 3rd year and will secure funding from April 1st, 2022 until July 31st, 2024. So it's a good news story, and yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a 3rd reading, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McGuire that a bylaw to authorize execution of funding transfer agreement with the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade respecting the Smiths Falls, Leonard County and Leeds and Grenville Small Business Advisory Center be now read a 3rd time and finally passed, signed, sealed and numbered 10334-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor McGuire. The bylaw to authorize execution of a funding transfer agreement with the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade respecting the Smiths Falls, Leonard County and Leeds Grenville Small Business Advisory Center be now read a 3rd time and finally passed, signed, sealed and numbered 10334-2022. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Brennan, I believe you're up next.
I am. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a contribution agreement with the federal government respecting the new Smiths Falls Heritage House Museum marketing strategy be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a contribution agreement with the federal government respecting the new Smiths Falls Heritage House Museum marketing strategy be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, this is great news. Of course, we talked about this at the last committee whole meeting, and this is an amount of $65,323, and from the federal government. And Heritage House, of course, is an important asset we have, and so we look forward to exciting things to come. And I will mention that they're embarking on a strategic plan, and right now on their Facebook page there is a link for a quick survey that will be open until the end of the month. So I encourage everyone to participate in that survey, and then we can get going on making the Heritage House bigger and better.
Super, thank you. Any further discussion? May I have the 3rd reading, please?
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a contribution agreement with the federal government respecting the new Smiths Falls Heritage House Museum marketing strategy be now read a 3rd time and finally passed, signed, sealed and numbered 10335-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a contribution agreement with the federal government respecting the new Smiths Falls Heritage House Museum marketing strategy be now read a 3rd time and finally passed, signed, sealed and numbered 10335-2022. All in favor? That's carried. Again, thank you. Councillor Dwyer, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McGuire that a bylaw to authorize the execution of a funding agreement with the provincial government respecting the Artscape Parquet project be received and ready first time and taken and read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a funding agreement with the provincial government respecting the Artscape Parquet project be received or read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Discussion, Councillor Dwyer.
Thank you, Mayor Pankow. While we're still a way off from finalizing the location and theme of the mural, this funding agreement allows us to get ready with the pre-planning stages and consult around where and what this mural will look like. We have identified 3 locations in the downtown that may be subject to further beautification by this mural. And we're very excited to see where this goes within the next couple months.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We have a third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize the execution of a funding agreement with the provincial government respecting the Artscape Parquet project be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10336-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a funding agreement with the provincial government respecting the Artscape Parquet project be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10336-2022. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Alford, you have the next bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding with the tenant and the property owner at 54 Beckwith Street North respecting the installation of a mural on private property be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding with the tenant and property owner of 54 Beckwith Street North respecting the installation of a mural on private property be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Alford.
Yes, Your Worship. This is a companion piece to the previous bylaw, specifically for a planned mural on the Russell Street side of the Shoppers Drug Mart. This will add a lot of life to the downtown on a very forgotten piece of real estate in our downtown.
Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding with the tenant and the property owner of 54 Beckwith Street North respecting the installation of a mural on private property be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10337-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding with the tenant and the property owner of 54 Beckwith Street North respecting the installation of a mural on private property be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10337-2022. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor McKenna, you're up next.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a master equity lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management, Inc. be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a master equity lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management, Inc. be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, please, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, Your Worship. This council and staff approved a budget last year to update our fleet by adding a new vehicle or two. And due to COVID and shortages, we were unable to do so. The town has over 20 vehicles in its fleet, and one of them is at least 15 years old, and the average age is over 9. And we were approached by Enterprise Fleet Management Company, which is endorsed by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, to consider entering into an agreement, a 10-year agreement, to provide services, leasing vehicles from them. This is very entrepreneurial-like for the municipality, and council was quite excited about it. Director Dunlop, there's no restrictions on mileage if we went with this agreement on the vehicles we would lease. There's no early termination clause. And I guess we would minimize the large capital outlay that municipalities would normally put out. and we could budget for this over the next few years. Staff will evaluate this as agreement annually and report to future councils on how it works. But essentially, we would, as our fleet ages, we would replace it with a leased vehicle and sell off the other vehicles that are no longer serviceable. Council last week felt that this was a very good opportunity for us. And according to the report, the town could realize up to about $100,000 in savings over the 10-year period of the lease agreement.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a master equity lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management, Inc. be now read a third time and finally passed and signed, sealed and numbered 10338-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a master equity lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management, Inc. be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10338-2022. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor McGuire, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize an exception to bylaw 6018-94, being a bylaw to prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize an exception to bylaw 6018-94, being a bylaw to prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor?
Yeah, so the fee structure for merchandise displays is $30 per year or $3 per month. We're waiving this as part of the COVID things. This is not being reviewed as part of the patio bylaw, which will come up later, but will be in effect till the end of the year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize an exemption to bylaw 6018-94, being a bylaw to prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10339-2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize an exception to bylaw 6018-94, being a bylaw to prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10339-2022. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. On to our miscellaneous motions. Councillor McKenna.
Yes, Your Worship, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls support the recommendations as outlined in the Racism and Discrimination Task Force interim report, and that staff be directed to work with the task force, Parks Canada, the local Indigenous community leaders, and local stakeholders to implement the area of reflection and act of reconciliation. And further, that staff be authorized to execute all other recommendations included in the report as time and budget permits.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor McKenna?
Yes, I've had the pleasure of being a member of the Racism and Discrimination Task Force. And it is a task force that does truly reflect the face of Canada today. Smith Falls is blessed with a diverse population, and they are at the table with the town to review how we can reduce the impact of racism and discrimination in our community. And they've just done a terrific job, supported by Deputy Clerk Bennett. And so we've come up with a list, about a dozen recommendations in our interim report One of them is pulled out specifically in this motion, and it refers to this area or place where people could reflect on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report and the impact that colonization has had on our Indigenous communities. So a quiet place of reflection. One of our members, an Indigenous member, Charlene Catchpole, designed a concept and that is absolutely stunning and thoughtful. And it is thought that we should locate that near the water, the Rideau, within the town of Smith Falls, at a location to be worked out with the Parks Canada, with the committee members and with the town staff, and a modest budget be set aside to help create this area of reflection. So we're really proud of this work. There's other recommendations in there that are, I encourage the public to look at. So I'm really pleased to bring this forward at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any further discussion? It's moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford. The Council of the Corporation of Town of Smith Falls support the recommendations as outlined in the Racism and Discrimination Task Force interim report, and the staff be directed to work with the task force, Parks Canada, the local Indigenous community leaders, and local stakeholders to implement the area of reflection, active reconciliation, and further staff be authorized to execute all other recommendations included in the report as time and budget permits. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Allen, you have item 8.2. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McGuire. Sorry, I lost my place. That the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls award the land needs study to Dillon Consulting and Metro Economics in the amount of $43,517.66 net of HST credits, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary contract agreement to initiate the work.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Allen?
Yeah, in the past, our town official plan of 2016 forecasted a modest rate of residential and employment growth being informed by a land needs study. Since 2014, we've had much development infills in existing built-up areas, especially in the last 3 years. And our town is growing, and to be able to have an informed potential future development and how much land we need outside our area, current boundaries, this land study, needs study, will inform us and form the basis to justify and guide the potential updates to the official plan that we need for the future of our development.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor McGuire. The Council of the Corporation of Town of Smith Falls award the land needs study to Dillon Consulting and Metro Economics in the amount of $43,517.66 net of HST credits, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary contract agreement to initiate the work. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And our final piece of business is with Councillor Alford, please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna. Whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls passed Resolution 2020-06-149, authorizing relief to facilitate patios for the duration of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls passed Resolution 2021-03-58, extending the relief provision for the 2021 season, authorizing relief to facilitate patios for the duration of the 2021 season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls acknowledge that challenging economic conditions continue to exist and deem it appropriate to support an extension to all provisions until December 31st, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that Resolution 2021-03-58 be amended to extend all provisions until December 31st, 2022, And further, that the following provisions be added. Number 1, delegate to staff the authority to execute a 1-year cash in lieu of parking agreement pursuant to Section 40 of the Planning Act. Number 2, delegate to staff the authority to execute patio agreements. And number 3, delegate to staff the authority to approve occupancy of on-street parking spaces except on Beckwith Street on public lands within the municipality.
Thank you. Further discussion?
These changes, as is stated in the actual motion, were to help our businesses during the pandemic, and they're being extended because the economic recovery from the pandemic is not completely here yet. So it's extended to the end of this year. There is going to be review in 2022, the summer of 2022, of this existing bylaw to consider provisions that should perhaps be made permanent. And I'm sure we'll hear about more of that from the staff when that is ready. But this is welcome news. Hopefully this is going to be a wonderful summer and bring many visitors and residents to the patios that our business people have now or are planning to have.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Mother Nature was waiting for this patio bylaw to be passed. She came at us hard today with a little bit of snow, but with this now passed, or I hopefully passed, the sunshine will come and those patios will open up and we'll see everybody downtown.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay, moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna. Whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls passed Resolution 2020-06-149, authorizing relief to facilitate patios for the duration of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls passed Resolution 2021-03-58, extending the relief provision for the 2021 season, authorizing relief to facilitate patios for the duration of the 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls acknowledged that challenging economic conditions continue to exist and deem it appropriate to support an extension to all provisions until December 31st, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that Resolution 2021-03-58 be amended to extend all provisions until December 31st, 2022. And further, that the following provisions be added. 1, delegate to staff the authority to execute a 1-year cash in lieu of parking agreement pursuant to Section 40 of the Planning Act. 2, delegate to staff the authority to execute patio agreements. And 3, delegate to staff the authority to remove occupancy of on-street parking spaces, except on Beckwith Street, on public lands within the municipality. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Inquiries or announcements? Councillor Brennan.
I don't have a question. I tried to find out what the historical snow accumulation in Smith Falls on this date was, but I could not find it. But I do have an announcement on behalf of the Chamber. On May 2nd, the Chamber of Commerce of Smith Falls will be hosting a job fair at Centennial Park. It's from, it starts at 12. There'll be a late lunch and a meet and greet. And then from 1 to 3, there'll be various employers there and conducting on-the-spot interviews, providing information. So I would encourage anyone interested to go down there, and any employers that are looking for employees, I think there's a few of those around these days, to get a hold of the chamber and register. But that will be May 2nd, and I'm sure it'll be a lovely day.
Nicer than today, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other inquiries or announcements? Seeing none, our motion for adjournment is with Councillor Brennan again.
Moved by myself and seconded by the next person to put their hand up, which is Councilor McGuire, I think, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 5:40 and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brandon, second by Councillor McGuire. This council adjourns proceedings at 5:40 p.m. and stands so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We're adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.